Hi, hello, my name is Andi. I'm a chaotic reader, so let's talk about some books. Specifically, some of the books that I got in the last few months, but also some 2025 releases that I'm super excited about. I kind of made an agreement with myself at the beginning of the year that I won't buy any more physical books until I read some of the around 30 unread books that are currently in our flat. I know 30 is not a high number to some people, but it is a high number for me. So far this year I read 9 books and 3 of them were books in physical form, so I allowed myself to get some more. This Chiltern edition of Wuthering Heights and I have a bit of a history. Little story time. I live in Austria, which is a German-speaking country, and that means that a lot of these English special editions are not easily available here in the local bookstores. So when I traveled to Miami in 2023 with my husband, we went to Barnes & Noble, of course, and I spotted this edition and immediately fell in love. The issue was our luggage space, so in the end I didn't buy it. Then last year in 2024 I went on a trip to Edinburgh with my best friend, and can you imagine? I spotted it there in a small bookstore called John Kay's Shop, which had all of these other gorgeous special editions. I told myself I'm gonna buy it this time, but by the time we went back to the store at the end of the day, the store was already closed and it was our last full day there. So again, I didn't get it. I was kind of disappointed because when I tried to look for it in Austria, it was difficult to get it, so I kind of gave up for a bit. And then my husband surprised me with it for my birthday this year. So finally, after 2 years, I have the beautiful Chiltern edition of Wuthering Heights. Which comes at a perfect time because I was thinking about rereading some classics that I had to read in school back in the days. And of course back then I read them in translation, so I'm curious to see how I feel about the original. Given that I'm familiar with the story and the characters, I'm sure I will get to this one rather quickly. I mean, look how beautiful this is. I love the flower detailing. I'm not sure how I feel honestly about the golden pages. It's a little bit meh, but I love the flower details. The second book on this list is also one that I've already read, but in a different language, because this is the German version of One Dark Window, which is one of my favorite books, together with its sequel, Two Twisted Crowns. I originally thought to get it to practice my German skills, because Duolingo doesn't seem enough these days, and the fact that they made this gorgeous cover for it really sold it to me. I mean, come on, look at this detailing. I will say the original cover conveys the atmosphere of the book maybe a little bit better. The story takes place in eerie, misty woods, old castles with these gothic vibes centered around our main character Elspeth, who is living with a monster trapped inside her mind. The original covers show that a lot better than the German ones, which are more ornamental but not very symbolic. Anyway, I recommend the book in any language you wish to read it. I'm curious how they translated some of the riddles in German that are important to the magic system. The next book I picked up when we were on holiday in Taipei, in Taiwan, last year because I wanted to get a book by a Taiwanese author. I'm talking about The Man with the Compound Eyes. I confess I haven't heard anything about this one before, but it caught my interest when I read the blurb because it is categorized as an eco-fantasy or magical realism with an environmental focus. It's dubbed as a Taiwanese Life of Pi. It is an ambitious exploration of Taiwan's island identity, the cost of environmental degradation, and how humans make sense of the world around them. They say it's at once poetic, philosophical, and far-reaching. It's not my usual kind of genre, but I'm looking forward to branching out to something new, and especially something as important as exploring environmental issues, even in a magical realism setting. On the other hand, the last book of this little haul is very much to my taste, so it's actually a 5-star prediction for myself. I'm talking about Where the Dark Stands Still, which I honestly don't see many people talk about, and that's a shame. In a sense, it kind of ties to One Dark Window, so I would say if you enjoyed that one, you should check out this story because it is also set in the woods and the neighboring village, where our main character makes a dangerous bargain with the demon warden of the forest. What could set this one apart from our usual fantasy mixed with a Roman subplot is that we have Polish mythology as part of the world building, and I cannot wait to explore that. It was actually a Goodreads Choice Award nominee for Favorite Young Adult Fantasy last year, so let me know if any of you have read it and what were your thoughts on it. Now let's turn from last year and the books I got in the last couple of months to 2025 releases that are coming up. Top of the list is of course The Night and the Moth from the same author who wrote One Dark Window. I can see an unintentional theme here. I didn't think that so many books in this video could be linked to this one, but I'm not mad. I love this series. The new one from the author promises a similar mysterious gothic adventure, now featuring a priestess and a knight whose future she cannot see, as they try to unravel the mysteries surrounding her cathedral and the disappearances of her fellow sisters. Right off the bat, this ticks off so many boxes. We potentially have reluctant working together to solve a mystery. We have a knight, so explorations of loyalty, swearing an oath, internal conflicts of maybe going against what they both believe in, defying fate. This has so much potential. The expected publishing date is May 2025, so I cannot wait to pick it up next month. Definitely also a 5-star prediction for myself, knowing the author and how brilliantly she writes gothic fantasy and yearning and tension. Talking about gothic fantasy and yearning and tension, I have my eyes on Enchantra, which is the second part of the Wicked Games series. I read the first part, Phantasma, last year, rated it 4 stars, but it left me curious for the next one. Here we follow the younger sister Genevieve as she journeys to Italy and accidentally stumbles into a magical but deadly competition named Enchantra. The ticket for her to survive? Fake marrying the tall, dark and ruthlessly handsome Rowan so they can enter the games as a pair. Say no more, I need to read this. The first part, Phantasma, also featured a competition with multiple trials, and I was fine with the pacing. It didn't feel rushed, and the stakes and the love story were developed gradually with a plot twist in the end, so I'm looking forward to this one as well. It's coming out in April, so I will need to go hunt for it in the local bookstores. Next. Oh my god, why has no one talked about this? Rebecca Ross, author of Divine Rivals, A River Enchanted, Dreams Lie Beneath, just to mention some of my favorite books that she wrote. Her new book, Wild Reverence, is expected to release in September this year. I was reading the blurb, and it's interesting that most of her work featured divinity in a fantasy setting. We had the war between the gods in Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, and we had the elemental spirit gods in A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless, which I still need to read. I'm looking at it right now on my bookshelf. This time in Wild Reverence we have a goddess as our protagonist called Matilda, the youngest of her clan, but she's caught within the blood-soaked rivalries of the gods. She shares a special connection with a mortal boy, and together they might challenge the ways of the gods. If it's a Rebecca Ross book, I'm expecting amazing world building, characters where the love story makes sense because they find understanding in each other and they are not just like two good-looking people who get together randomly. But they always face obstacles, which leads to yearning, beautiful, emotional moments. And with that, I'm also expecting lots of heartbreak and unexpected twists. I'm not sure if it's a standalone or if it will be a duology like most of her other works, but honestly, September cannot come soon enough. This next book I discovered accidentally, but when I read the first line, I immediately added it to my TBR. It reads, the first in a slow burn enemies to lovers romantasy duology featuring a scholarly healer and a gentleman assassin, set in an exquisite fantasy world perfect for fans of the Love Hypothesis and Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Scholarly healer, similar to Emily? Yes please. Gentleman assassin, whatever that might mean? Yes please. Unpopular opinion, but I didn't like the Love Hypothesis, but I loved Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, so we are still on the right track here. I'm expecting lots of banter, rivalry as supposedly they belong to different orders, denied attraction with all of its internal conflicts, brilliant minds working together, or as the author put it, hyper-competent idiots, which just sets the tone for a super fun and enjoyable read for me. Release date, I believe, is July 2025, so it would be perfect for a beach read for all of my fellow fantasy lovers out there. Staying with the scholarly theme, R.F. Kuang's new book Katabasis is set to release this summer too. The plot is literally that, Katabasis, which is a Greek word and refers to a trip to the underworld, immediately evoking works such as Dante's Inferno or even Leigh Bardugo's Ninth House and Hellbent, which makes me intellectually excited. In this story we follow two graduate students who journey to hell to save their professor's soul, each for their own reason and benefit, I assume. And that's really all that the blurb gives away, but potentially we are looking at a philosophical exploration of hell, maybe even greed, and all the historical works that tie into it. Will I read Fable before Katabasis comes out in August? Let's see. And last but not least, I have a book on my list, which is a third part of a series, and I'm reading the first book right now. I'm at 60% or so, but I already know that I will be picking up the second part as well, and eventually this one too. I'm talking about Oathbound from the Legendborn cycle. I don't want to read up too much on this because that would kind of spoil the first two books for me, but let's just say it's been a while since a young adult fantasy series made me this excited to read it, especially as it features a magic system tied to the legend of King Arthur and the main character's experiences as a black girl in North Carolina. I think it's not the last book of the series from what I heard, but I'm eager to continue the series and expecting some pretty big plot twists and emotional impact from each of the books. So, 10 books, 4 which are now on my physical TBR and 6 which I'm excited to pick up when they come out later this year. Let me know in the comments below what 2025 releases you have on your radar. I feel like there might be a lot more that I'm just simply unaware of. Thank you for sticking with me till the end. Hope I could provide some inspiration for your TBR. See you in my next video. Until then, take care. Bye!